Hello, everyone. Matt Ryan here on News Talk for week 4 already. And this week was interesting by going through and looking at what it takes to cover a news story through journalism using video. And a lot of what has happened through the news uh, and how it's captured is really interesting. So I first want to start. I have an image up that we're going to talk about, but I thought that it would be important to answer the questions that we have on here first, and then dive into a little bit more of my findings. So, first of all, the first question was, from Chapter 5 reading, what are the 2 points about broadcasts that the authors have set forth and discussing what the elements of the broadcast are. This is a good example here of showing some of those elements. So first, having a live footage capture of a fire that's going on. This happens to be at a mobile plant for Exxon. And in here, they're utilizing over here the breaking news caption that is a strip that's along the bottom that helps guide the information, still with the logo of the news from ABC, and also a hashtag on the story to easily find it. What I found about these set of strips is that they really are an important factor that a lot of people just take for granted when they're watching the news. They don't even see it at first because they're more interested in the story. But what it does is it does just really capture and give the information that is needed for people to be able to follow along with the story. So these Astons that are a part of the bottom part of a storyline allow us to be able to really capture and see what's going on. So I want to play this clip for a second just to kind of show how that still stays on there, but guides us through the storyline and keeps the viewers really interested in the story.
Exxon Mobil complex in Baytown, Texas, started with an explosion just before noon, towering flames and a thick column of black smoke visible for miles. The fire burning in a facility that contains propylene, an extremely...
The next thing that I want to point out here is just the importance of the text that's used and how it's positioned on the actual video. So this is a good example of editing that's gone on where they have placed some information that they want to really get across, like the extremely flammable gas and how important it is to report on the validity of what they're looking at. So I find it really interesting on the text that they use and how they did that. I want to just move forward a little bit more.
Flammable gas. We're seeing it lean a little bit more, it appears. Officials ordering area residents and schools to shelter in place, turn off their air conditioning, and keep their windows closed. I just want him out. Mary Landry raced to the scene after an urgent call from her son. He said the tank blew up. I'm trapped in the back and I can't get out. He said, kiss my babies and tell them I love them. Moments later.
I find it interesting also how immediately the story's breaking out and they are diving into finding eyewitnesses. Who else can just really enhance the story? And they're usually going to find something that has a pull on the strings of the viewer. A family member that's either trapped or something that's going on that's related to this that a viewer can then even get more interested in and watching and dive into. The angles of the camera, the attention from the actual viewer that's going through, and then the attention of the reporter and how they're reporting their information is really important. So I think that this is a great example for us to stay on and just talk for a little bit more. The use of the 30 frames per second with tween animation, which is important to understand like what we're watching and how it's going through and why they're keeping this edit with this stream being in front of us. The other parts of the editing that are really interesting on this news story is how effective they are at really showcasing what's going on with that fire moment to moment and capturing the people's audience. And the time that they're taking and reporting this, again, this is a one almost 2 minute video, and from what the text was telling us and what we were reading about this week is that the average that we're seeing for these type of video news release are 2 to 3 minutes, and you're putting a lot of information in there for the viewer to get. I want to move on to our next story that I have, and this is talking about more of that natural disaster. So we look at fires, right? That's something that is really a scary thing, and then we're looking at the natural disasters that happen in the world and become breaking news, and diving into that. And so when we were looking at what we learned from the text this week was that television news remains to be the most trusted when it comes to politics, when it comes to also just diving into natural disasters that are happening. And we see this from the wars that have happened to the hurricanes to tornadoes, and this is another great example of that. And you can already see that they have their Aston really ready to go. The news font is right down there to show what station it's coming from. So let's dive into this one.
Of destruction.
We all dove underneath the table, and we all kind of hunkered in place.
Also a weekend travel nightmare across a huge part of the country, and tonight a historic flood disaster. The stunning moment, the barrier gave way, leaving a city underwater in just minutes. The massive rideshare strike on the way that could wreak havoc with your commute. Uber and Lyft drivers in several big cities had to walk off the job.
And here's a great example of utilizing multiple stories and getting their point across as to which one they're going to dive into and how they're going to dive into it, and capturing that attention. The first two stories are natural disasters. Very, very interesting. They place it at the beginning because they know that they're going to grab the attention of the viewer and want to have that viewer stay on through that. And I think that NBC does a great job of having that added thread of music and attention. I mean, just here you can hear it, like
when they're demanding and when they play.
Again, you hear that this in the background from the speaker, that's still talking about the news, but you still hear this very important, like you've got to listen to this music that's in the background to grab your attention. And that's also part of that editing that's really interesting for the formatting that dives into the news broadcast and what makes it so important. I did want to show one last thing that came up, which talked about when you're sharing videos and how you can make sure that the viewer is going to get the information that you're sharing quickly by using the MP4, which is the most trusted and most easy to be able to download or find by using a cell phone or by using a web browser. And a lot of these videos are in MP4 that really make it easy. I don't have to download something else in order to be able to watch and view this video, which I think is really important. This other one that I have here was interesting because this is probably my least favorite, and I wanted to show this because I think ABC and NBC have a lot of money that is put towards their newsrooms and how they broadcast and utilize the right mediums in order to get their points across. This one is a local news one that was talking about road rage, and the video that they use is a video captured from the cell phone of the person that got attacked. There's nothing in here that's scary, but I just want to kind of show you the video quality and how this one versus like an ABC or NBC newscast is not as high quality, and you can see that, and you have to really pay attention to the details. They also use this font here, which is just very bland and basic. So let's go and watch this one.
Bizarre case of road rage in West Sac. Asher Norwood says he will never forget his drive home from church on April 7th. A woman got out of her car and did this.
Go back.
You're saying this all happened over you tapping your horn. Tells me the driver got upset when he honked his horn when she appeared.
And I want to stop here for a second and just show again, this news station is using very, very basic news format. They use a very large TV screen to put their point across. The news anchor is kind of sitting at not behind a desk. He's trying to interview what the two. Well, in this case, the victim and then the lawyer, and then they really are piecing together things. I'm going to just show you just a little, just because we're running out of time, but I just want to show you also how the document that they show, they don't even show. I mean, I could have got this document and hid what they did. So let me just show you this really
Appeared to be
quickly.
distracted on a phone, perhaps even taking selfies at a red light that had turned green.
As she began to shout out her window a number of very hateful and mean things. Things like, go back to Africa, you stupid mother effer.
And according to this,
So here's what I wanted to show you. This is where they actually take the document that they are looking at that has all this pertinent information and just blur it out, and we just have the top of the supplemental. It's just not really great newsworthiness. You can't really see anything. I don't know what the point of that was. Again, going back to that TV that's in the back, it has this kind of red, white, and blue, or maybe this red and blue, like a police officer type motif, but it just doesn't fit into what is trying to happen. And so really the branding and the newsroom and the way that they handle the news really is important. I think the first two examples show a lot of creativity, giving a lot to the news story and a lot of thought to it, of what they can show and how they can do real well on being able to report it. So I really hope that you're able to get the information as far as what was shared in the chapters. There was a lot of information packed in there this week, and I just I want to say that I'm going to attach again my report that I looked at, and that really summarizes a lot of how the angles and the images and the attention to detail, even back to the font that's used, is so very important. Thank you so much for watching News Talk this week with me. Matt Ryan here, signing off. Have a good rest of your day.